Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I never thought I'd be in a marriage where obedience was even a topic of discussion. Marriage was supposed to be a partnership, built on mutual respect, love, and trust. At least, that's what I believed when I married Melissa. But over time, things shifted. Somewhere along the way, she stopped seeing me as her husband and started treating me as if I was something to be controlled, managed, and, most importantly, obedient. It started subtly, as these things often do. At first, it was little remarks, barely noticeable. You should really listen to me more. You always think you know best, but I know what's right for us. I don't ask for much. I just want things done my way. I would laugh it off, thinking she was joking. But then she stopped laughing. The small suggestions became expectations. Then the expectations became demands. And before I even realized it, my choices in our household were no longer my own. At first, I gave in to keep the peace. It wasn't worth fighting over small things, where we should eat, what color the curtains should be, how I should dress when we went out. I thought, who cares? Let her have her way. But then it got worse. She started making decisions about my time, my money, even my friendships. I don't like that friend of yours. Stop seeing him. You should wake up earlier to make breakfast for us. It's what a good husband does. You don't need to spend on that. Give me your card, and I'll handle our finances. Still, I let it slide. I figured, she's just strong-willed. She likes control. She's trying to make things better. But then, the breaking point came. The dinner that changed everything. It was a Friday night, and I had just gotten home from work. The long hours had drained me, and all I wanted was to relax with a cold beer, maybe watch some TV before bed. But the moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was wrong. Melissa was standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, lips pursed. I barely had time to take off my jacket before she fired the first shot. You're late. I checked my watch. 7:30. Not late by any reasonable standard, but I knew better than to argue. Traffic, I said, keeping my voice neutral. She didn't acknowledge my explanation. Instead, she gestured to the dining table. Dinner was set: steak, mashed potatoes, red wine. Candlelight flickered across the room. It looked nice. You didn't tell me we were doing something special tonight, I said, trying to ease the tension. Her nostrils flared. I shouldn't have to. You should just know to be home on time. And now the food is cold. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. Here we go again. Melissa, I appreciate this, really. But I didn't know you were making dinner. You could have texted me. Wrong move. Her eyes darkened, and her voice dropped to that icy tone I had come to dread. I shouldn't have to text you. A good husband knows what his wife expects without needing reminders. And there it was. Not I wish you had been here earlier. Not I made this for us because I wanted to. No. It was my job to read her mind, to predict what she wanted before she even said it. I exhaled slowly, willing myself to stay calm. All right. Let's eat. She didn't move. You don't get it, do you? She asked, shaking her head. I do everything in this house. I plan, I organize, I take care of everything, and all I ask is that you do what I say. Is that so hard? Something in me tensed. Do what you say? I repeated, staring at her. Yes. Her voice was flat, unwavering. A good husband listens. A good husband obeys. If you can't do that, then maybe you deserve nothing. She said it so matter-of-factly, like she was handing down a verdict in court. Obey you or get nothing? I repeated, a slow, humorless laugh escaping my lips. You really think that's how this works? Her chin lifted defiantly. Yes, that's exactly how it works. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. Because if she wanted me to obey her, then she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. If she wanted me to experience nothing, then I would let her experience what nothing truly felt like. I barely slept that night. Melissa's words echoed in my head, repeating like a broken record. Obey me or get nothing. She had said it with such confidence, like it was an undeniable truth, like she was so certain I would just bow down and comply. And for a long time, I probably would have. I would have given in, let it slide like all the other times, told myself it wasn't worth the fight. But not this time. This time, something in me had shifted. This time, I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to plead for respect like some kind of desperate fool. No, I was going to give her exactly what she demanded. I was going to let her experience what nothing really felt like. The next morning, I woke up before her. Usually, I would make coffee, get breakfast ready, do little things to make our mornings easier. Not today. Today, I stayed in bed, scrolling through my phone, completely ignoring the sound of her footsteps moving around the house. I heard her open the fridge, then the cabinets. The usual breakfast ingredients weren't laid out for her like they always were. A few minutes later, I heard her scoff. "No coffee." I didn't reply. I just kept scrolling. A few more seconds of silence. Then, a louder, annoyed sigh before she stomped over to the coffee maker and made it herself. I smirked to myself. One small inconvenience. One little taste of what nothing felt like. That day, I went about my routine differently. Usually, I'd send her a text during lunch. "How's your day going? Need anything?" I didn't this time. When I got home, I normally helped with chores, fixed whatever she hadn't gotten to, and made sure things ran smoothly. This time, I did nothing. The dishes from the night before? Still in the sink. Laundry? Untouched. Dinner? I grabbed takeout for myself on the way home and ate it at the counter while she stood there, waiting, clearly expecting me to start cooking like I usually did. She stared at me, then at the empty stove. "You're not cooking?" she finally asked. I took another bite of my burger, shrugged. I wasn't sure if I had permission to. Her face scrunched up. "What the hell does that mean?" I leaned back in my chair, looking at her like I was genuinely confused. "Well, I wouldn't want to do anything without your approval first. You know, since I'm supposed to obey you." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, don't be ridiculous. Just cook dinner." I smiled. "Make it yourself." The words landed like a slap. She blinked at me, stunned, as if she couldn't process what had just happened. And then I watched it hit her. This was real. This wasn't some temporary annoyance. Something had changed. She was used to control. She was used to giving orders and having them followed. And now, for the first time, she wasn't getting what she wanted. She scoffed, rolling her eyes as she turned away. "Fine. If you want to act like a child, I'll just order something." And she did. But I saw it. Her hands gripping the phone a little tighter than usual, the way she clicked through the app with more force than necessary. She was pissed. But she wasn't going to admit it. Not yet. Day after day, I stuck to my plan. No help. No gestures. No effort. I still paid the bills. I still handled my own responsibilities, but I did absolutely nothing for her. And at first, she acted like she didn't care. She rolled her eyes, brushed it off, acted like I was just being petty, and that I'd eventually snap out of it. But then, the little things started piling up. The house wasn't as clean as it used to be. The dishes piled up faster than she could keep up with. She ran out of gas one morning because I had stopped filling up her car whenever I used it. The garbage sat by the door, untouched, until the smell forced her to finally take it out herself. She had a habit of buying things online with my card. Little luxuries, expensive skincare, overpriced candles. I shut that down too. She tried using the card one afternoon and got a decline notification. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Her text was short, clipped. "Melissa, why is my card not working?" I typed back casually. "Me. It's not your card. It's mine. And since I don't owe you anything, I figured I'd stop funding your extras. You can use your own money for that." Her response came immediately. "Melissa, are you serious?" I didn't reply. Let her sit with it. Let her feel what nothing was. By the end of the week, the cracks in her composure were getting bigger. She came home late one night, her heels clicking against the tile with sharp frustration. I was on the couch, relaxed, flipping through channels. She stormed into the room and stood in front of me, arms crossed. "All right, what is this?" she snapped. I looked up at her lazily. "What is what?" "This. You're acting different." I smirked. "I'm just doing what you said, babe. You wanted me to obey or get nothing, so I chose nothing." Her jaw clenched. "That is not what I meant." "Oh no? Because that's what you said." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "You told me to obey you. You wanted control. You wanted power over me. And when I didn't comply, you threatened me with nothing." I gestured around the room. "So, that's exactly what I'm giving you. Nothing. No support. No effort. No partnership. Just nothing." She stared at me, her nostrils flaring, hands tightening into fists. "You're being ridiculous." "No," I said, my voice suddenly sharper. "I'm showing you exactly what life is like when I stop carrying everything for you." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time, I saw something in her eyes other than anger. Worry. Doubt. Like she was realizing just how much she had been taking for granted. Like she was realizing how much she actually needed me. And I let that moment sit between us, heavy, undeniable. I wasn't going to say anything else. I wanted her to feel it. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until finally, she turned on her heel and walked away. She had no comeback. Because for the first time, she knew. She was losing control. I had always been the problem solver. The one who made sure the bills were paid on time, the house stayed in order, and Melissa never had to worry about the little things. Now, for the first time, she was seeing what life looked like without my constant effort. And it was breaking her. At first, she tried to play it cool. She acted like my withdrawal didn't bother her, that she could handle everything on her own. But I knew better. I saw the small changes, how the house wasn't as spotless as it used to be, how she left dishes in the sink longer than usual. The laundry piled up. Her car had gone from always pristine to slightly dusty, the backseat cluttered with empty coffee cups and receipts. And the best part? She was running late to everything. Without me keeping track of her schedule, reminding her when she needed to leave, or making sure things were ready, she was losing time. One morning, I sat at the table, casually drinking my coffee, while she frantically rushed around looking for her car keys. "Where are my damn keys?" she muttered under her breath, rummaging through the counter, her purse, the couch cushions. I sipped my coffee. "Not sure. Maybe you left them in your car." She stopped and glared at me. "I didn't. You always put them in the bowl by the door." I smiled. "Not anymore." Her nostrils flared. "So you just let me lose them?" I leaned back in my chair, keeping my voice calm. "They're your keys, Melissa. You're responsible for them." The moment stretched between us, thick with tension. Then she turned and stormed off, still searching. A minute later, she found them in the pocket of a jacket she had left on the couch. No apology. No acknowledgement that she had misplaced them. Just a slammed door as she stomped out of the house. 2 weeks into my silent retaliation, Melissa hit her first real obstacle: money. She was used to spending freely. Spa days, overpriced clothes, takeout for lunch every day, it was all normal for her. But now? Now, the credit card she used was gone. She had her own money, of course, but she had never really managed it. She had always relied on me to make sure the essentials were covered so she could enjoy her luxuries. And now, reality was hitting her hard. One evening, she came home looking frustrated, tossing her purse onto the couch with more force than necessary. "What's wrong?" I asked, feigning curiosity. She scoffed, pulling off her heels. "Nothing. Just, the damn nail salon overcharged me." I raised an eyebrow. "Did they? Or did you just not check the price before booking an appointment?" Her jaw tightened. She wasn't used to me questioning her financial decisions. "I shouldn't have to think about that," she snapped. "That's why we have a budget." I smiled. "We do. And now you're responsible for your own spending within that budget." She glared at me, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. The truth was sinking in. She was feeling the absence of my support in ways she hadn't expected. The longer this went on, the more cracks started to show. Without my help, Melissa was struggling to keep up with things she had always assumed just happened. She had to wake up earlier to handle things I used to take care of: groceries, laundry, cleaning. She missed a hair appointment because she forgot to check the calendar. She ran out of gas on her way to a lunch meeting and had to wait for roadside assistance, something I used to prevent by making sure her tank was always full. And the best part? She was exhausted. The same woman who used to criticize me for not doing enough now barely had the energy to function by the end of the day. She wasn't sleeping well. She was more irritable, more impatient. And for the first time, she wasn't acting like she had everything under control. One night, she came home late, dumped her purse on the counter, and collapsed onto the couch with a sigh. I glanced up from my book. "Long day?" She rubbed her temples. "You have no idea." "Oh, I do," I said, flipping a page. "I've been doing all of that for years." She didn't reply, because she knew I was right. By the third week, Melissa started to realize something. She needed me, and she hated that. At first, she tried to manipulate me. She started making small comments, trying to guilt me into naturally falling back into my old habits. "You know, the house doesn't feel the same anymore. You used to be so thoughtful. I miss that. I don't know why you're acting like this. This isn't you." I didn't take the bait. I let her sit with it. And the more I ignored her attempts, the more desperate she became. One evening, she tried a new approach: seduction. She walked into the living room in one of her more revealing outfits, the one she usually wore when she wanted something. "Hey," she said, leaning against the doorframe, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. I was thinking, maybe we should have a little us time tonight. I looked up at her, completely unfazed. "Why? I don't owe you that." Her face fell. She knew exactly what I was doing. She knew I was throwing her own words back at her, and it devastated her. She tried to recover, tried to act like she didn't care, but I saw it, the way her confidence wavered, the way she shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, she was the one feeling rejected, and she didn't like it. Melissa had built her world around control over our home, our relationship, me. But now, all of that control was slipping through her fingers. She had spent so long believing that I was dependent on her approval, that I would always be the one to please her, to prove myself. Now, for the first time, she was realizing how much of her world was actually dependent on me. And she wasn't handling it well. She was unraveling. And soon, I knew, she would break. I just had to wait. Let her sit in the mess she created. Let her experience the full weight of nothing. And when she finally cracked, when she finally admitted just how much she had taken for granted, then, and only then, would I decide what happened next. It took almost a month. A month of her trying to act like she didn't need me. A month of watching her life slowly fall apart, piece by piece. A month of small inconveniences turning into major problems. But finally, the cracks had widened into full-blown fractures. And Melissa was breaking. It was a Thursday night when everything came to a head. She came home late, looking exhausted and disheveled. Normally, she would have walked in with her usual air of confidence, like the queen of her own little kingdom. But tonight, she looked lost, defeated. I was sitting on the couch, flipping through channels, when she walked in and dropped her bag onto the floor. "What the hell is happening to us?" she asked, her voice tight with frustration. I barely glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean," she snapped, her voice rising. "The house is a mess. We barely talk. Everything feels off." I kept my expression neutral. "Huh, that's weird. I thought everything was fine." Her jaw clenched. "Don't do that. Don't act like this isn't your fault." I raised an eyebrow. "My fault?" She threw her hands in the air. "Yes. You've been acting completely different. Distant. You don't do anything for me anymore. You don't even try." I let her words hang in the air for a moment before I finally put the remote down and looked at her. "Melissa, let me ask you something." She crossed her arms, clearly irritated. "What?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "Do you remember what you told me a month ago?" Her expression shifted slightly, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" she muttered. "You told me," I said slowly, letting each word sink in, "obey me or get nothing." She flinched. She remembered. I could see it all over her face. "That's not," she started, but I cut her off. No, that's exactly what you said. And I took you seriously. You wanted obedience. You wanted control. You wanted me to listen without question. And when I didn't, you threatened to give me nothing." Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to deny it, but she couldn't, because it was the truth. I stood up slowly, towering over her now, my voice calm but firm. "So, I made a choice, Melissa. I chose nothing." Silence. For the first time, she had no retort. No sarcastic remark. No excuse. Nothing. Just the truth, laid bare between us. She blinked at me, and for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Not frustration. Not anger. But fear. Not fear of me. Fear of what she had done. I didn't mean it like that," she finally muttered, her voice much softer now. I scoffed. "Didn't you?" She shook her head. "I was just frustrated that night. I didn't mean for you to take it so seriously. I thought you were just being dramatic." I let out a humorless laugh. "Dramatic?" I repeated, shaking my head. "No, Melissa. I was finally just done. Done trying harder than you. Done being treated like an afterthought. Done jumping through hoops just to be met with more demands." Her eyes glistened, her throat working as she swallowed hard. "I didn't realize how much you actually did," she admitted quietly. That was the closest thing to an apology I had ever gotten from her. And yet, it still wasn't enough. Because realizing something after the damage is done doesn't erase the damage. I studied her for a moment, letting her sit in her own discomfort. "Tell me, Melissa," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "How has it been? Handling everything on your own?" She hesitated. Then, finally, she exhaled shakily. "Hard," she whispered. "It's been hard." I nodded. "Yeah, it is." More silence. For once, she had no power over this conversation. For once, she couldn't manipulate or dismiss my feelings. Because the evidence was right in front of her. She had spent years treating me like I was just some tool, useful when needed, discarded when not. She thought she had all the control, until I took my effort away. And now, Now she realized just how much she had lost. I could see the gears turning in her head, her mind scrambling for a way to fix this. To fix us. Look, she said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. Maybe we just got lost. Maybe we need to find our way back. We can start over. I didn't respond. I'll try harder, she said quickly, taking a step closer. I'll do better. I didn't mean to push you away. I just got caught up in everything. I thought I had to be in control to keep things running smoothly. But I see it now. I see how much we need each other. I watched her carefully. Was she being sincere? Or was this just another tactic? She had never admitted fault before. Not like this. And yet, was it too little? Too late? I let her words settle. I could see the desperation in her eyes now. She knew she had pushed too far. She knew she had lost control of me. And she didn't know how to fix it. Melissa was standing there, waiting for me to either take her back or walk away. This was the moment. The decision that would change everything. I took a deep breath. Melissa stood there, waiting for me to either take her back or walk away completely. For years, she had held all the power in our relationship. She had controlled the narrative, dictated the rules, and set the expectations. But now, for the first time, she was powerless. And the choice was mine. I looked at her, really looked at her. For years, I had done everything to keep our marriage together. I had given, compromised, adjusted, bent over backward to make her happy. And what had I gotten in return? Disrespect, dismissal, ultimatums. Even now, standing in front of me with desperation in her eyes, I had to wonder, was she truly sorry? Or was she just afraid of losing the comfort I had always provided? I took a slow breath, letting the silence stretch between us. You say you want to start over, I said finally. But what does that actually mean, Melissa? She hesitated, clearly caught off guard. She fumbled, licking her lips. I'll be better. I'll try harder. I'll respect you more. I tilted my head. You'll try? Or you actually will? Her face flushed. I will, she said quickly. I swear. She shook her head. I didn't realize how much you did for me, for us, until you stopped. And I hate admitting that, but it's the truth. That was something. But was it enough? Because the truth was, if I stayed, things couldn't just go back to how they were. I refused to be treated like some background character in my own life. So if I stayed, things had to change. Permanently. All right, I said, my voice firm. Here's how this works, Melissa. If we're going to even attempt to move forward, things will be different. She nodded quickly. Okay, different how? First, I said, crossing my arms. You don't get to give me ultimatums anymore. You don't get to tell me to obey you or threaten me with nothing if I don't. She swallowed hard. Understood. Second, I continued. I will never again carry this entire marriage on my back while you sit comfortably on a throne of expectations. We split the effort 50-50. Chores, finances, responsibilities. I'm not your servant, and I'm sure as hell not your safety net when you decide you don't want to lift a finger. She nodded again, but I could see the hesitation creeping into her eyes. Third, I said, leaning forward slightly. Respect is non-negotiable. If you ever speak to me like I'm beneath you again, I walk. No second chances. Her breath hitched slightly, and she bit her lip. I understand, she murmured. Do you? I pressed. Because this isn't just me making empty threats. This is me telling you exactly what will happen if you ever try to pull the same crap again. She exhaled shakily. I get it. I do. Good. The weight of my words sank into her, and for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Not just regret, but fear of losing me. I wasn't going to just take her at her word. Words were easy. Actions were what mattered. So I started testing her. That weekend, I didn't lift a single finger around the house. I waited to see if she'd step up, if she'd actually do her part without being reminded or nagged. And, surprisingly, she did. She cleaned up after herself. She did laundry. She took out the trash without a single complaint. She even cooked dinner without expecting a thank you or some kind of grand praise. It was the bare minimum, but for her, it was a start. Then came the real test, money. Melissa had always relied on my finances to maintain her lifestyle. I had already cut off the extra spending, but now, I made it clear that she had to manage her own luxuries. When she went to book another spa appointment, she stopped mid-click, then sighed and closed the app. She didn't say anything about it, but I noticed. Another test? Respect. A week later, we had a disagreement, nothing major, just a difference of opinion about where to go for dinner. But instead of rolling her eyes, belittling me, or making some snide remark like she used to, she simply sighed and said, "Okay, let's figure something out together." Progress. Small, but real. I wasn't naive. I knew it would take time to unlearn the toxic dynamic we had fallen into. And part of me still wasn't sure if Melissa's change was genuine, or just temporary desperation to keep me from leaving. So I made one final thing clear. "Melissa, I need you to understand something," I said one night as we sat on the couch. "This isn't about winning me back. This isn't about earning points. This is about actually being a better partner." She nodded. "If you ever start slipping back into old habits," I continued, "I'm gone. No arguments. No second chances. I will walk away, and I will not look back." She swallowed, her fingers twisting in her lap. "I know," she whispered, "and I don't want to lose you. Not over something that I have the power to change." For the first time, her words felt real. Not rehearsed. Not manipulative. Just real. So I made my choice. I stayed. Not because I forgave her completely. Not because I was certain she had changed. But because I was willing to give her a chance. A real chance. With clear boundaries. With consequences if she ever disrespected me again. Time would tell if this was the start of something better. Or just the beginning of the end.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.